ever. It's never happening.
Why?
Because
yeah, we'll see. Never say never, Sean. I think you'd win. We'd rig it
great.
for you.
Who am I going to lose to? I mean, it wouldn't be fun. Great show. Tucker, thank you. All right, welcome to Hannity. All right, this is, as I've been saying, the biggest abuse of power, corruption scandal in modern U.S. history. Throughout the hour tonight, we're going to break it all down, A to Z. Information I promise you're not going to get anywhere else. It's not as complicated as they are making it elsewhere. In other words, the Mueller witch hunt should put real fear in the hearts of every law-abiding citizen, every American. Doesn't matter where your politics are. There's no equal justice under the law. There's no equal application under the law. And the blatant political bias around every turn. We are criminalizing political differences in America. A dangerous precedent is being set now. And Mueller, he's not only on a mission, he's not on a mission for truth and justice. He's on a crusade to destroy, delegitimize, disrupt the Donald Trump presidency. And also coming up tonight, I'm going to weigh in on the latest developments as they relate to Michael Cohen, Jerome Corsi, Roger Stone. We'll break down in detail the disgusting two-tier justice system in this country tonight. And also, after widespread public pressure, fake news, CNN had to fire one of their contributors over an awful, bigoted, anti-Semitic rant. We're going to show you how CNN's far-left, Trump-obsessed rage now has fostered what is a corrosive, abusively biased environment at the Facts First network. It's worse than it's ever been. All right, we're going to get through it. It's going to take the full hour. Stay with us. Time, we start with our breaking news opening monologue. All right, so the Mueller fishing expedition is now on day 561 and now desperate for dirt, any dirt on Donald Trump. They are frenetic. They're going to the well. 70 hours Michael Cohen apparently spent with the special prosecutor. One-time Trump attorney pled guilty to a charge of lying to Congress over something called the Moscow Project. Now, Cohen is now claiming that the Trump organization continued to negotiate the financed by Russia name lease of Trump deal of a potential building in Russia during the 2016 election. He first said discussions had ended in January of 2016. Now he's saying they ended in June of 2016. The destroyed Trump media, of course, used these anonymous sources. They're saying that Cohen, get this, allegedly told investigators he was negotiating a deal in Moscow to maybe gift Vladimir Putin a $50 million penthouse in the proposed building project that Donald Trump wasn't paying for so that rich Russian oligarchs would want to live there. And just moments ago, John Roberts reported a source close to the president calling it, quote, nuts. It would be a stupid idea, and the president never heard of any such deal. And by the way, this deal, guess what? It never, ever, ever happened. The project never got off the ground. No Trump organization investments were ever made, and today the Trump organization has no buildings in Russia. You wouldn't know it if you were watching the mainstream media. There's, by the way, even if it had happened, this is the most fascinating part, there's no crime here. None whatsoever. Donald Trump was a real estate mogul in New York. That's what he did his whole adult life and how he made a living. And he invested in many other countries. By the way, doesn't every politician that gets paid with our money, don't they get paid when they're out campaigning for the next election by us? And in 2017, this potential project was widely reported everywhere by just about every outlet. Fake news, CNN, ABC News, so did The Hill, almost every other news network. In other words, we knew this. This is not a news story. In any way is it a news story. It's been reported on extensively. However, that doesn't matter to the left, and it certainly didn't matter to Robert Mueller. He's more interested in making the mainstream media bubble and fizz like Alka-Seltzer and water, and he's just desperate. All he wants to do every day is mention Russia in some way, indicting all these former KGB guys, all their intelligence people that he's never bringing to the United States ever under any circumstances, just so he can mention Russia, fomenting breathless reporting to give credibility to his never-ending witch hunt. And by the way, Robert Mueller is playing your media with their bias and their hate of Trump just like a fiddle. Watch this.
it's Shakespearean because somebody who said he would take a bullet for Donald Trump is now pointing the gun at him.
Michael Cohen could be the single most terrifying person for Donald Trump, the single most destructive person for Donald Trump going forward.
Today is a good day for Donald Trump to resign. I really believe that.
The president's reaction to the news about Michael Cohen today was exactly what we, as prosecutors, always hear from mob bosses and drug kingpins. That is, that the cooperator is lying. He's just saying these things about me that aren't true to get a lighter sentence. And so this is kind of playing out exactly like a significant, complicated, organized crime prosecution would play out.
Everything is aiming right at the president personally, and that's got to be very unsettling for them.
So the truth is, putting aside all the conspiratorial reporting from people that say they're fair, balanced, objective, and they're not, your mainstream media, even if Michael Cohen's timeline revelation was accurate, let's say it is, that it wasn't January, it was June. No crime was committed, ever. It wouldn't be a crime. Legal scholar Alan Dershowitz, who's going to join us in just a minute, summed it up perfectly. Take a look.
Almost all the indictments secured by Mueller have either been indictments of people lying, that is, for committing crimes that didn't occur before he was appointed, but occurred as the result of his being appointed, or finding financial misconduct by people that are unrelated to the president or unrelated to the Russia probes. This new development with Cohen suggests that they're going to go after political issues, not just criminal issues.
Alan Dershowitz is dead on accurate. And by the way, just telling the truth. And whatever happened, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I kind of believed in attorney-client privilege. If Cohen was, in fact, working for the Trump organization as a lawyer, how can Mueller and Cohen just break what is a pretty ethical mandate, especially when there's no crime? Now, of course, despite all of this, there's no evidence of Trump-Russian collusion. Nothing. Zero. And today, President Trump, he weighed in on the Cohen guilty verdict with some pretty harsh words. Take a look.
He's lying about a project that everybody knew about. I mean, we were very open with it. We were thinking about building a building. I decided ultimately not to do it. There would have been nothing wrong if I did do it. If I did do it, there would have been nothing wrong. He's a weak person and not a very smart person. He's got himself a big prison sentence, and he's trying to get a much lesser prison sentence by making up a story. Now, here's the thing. Even if he was right, it doesn't matter, because I was allowed to do whatever I wanted during the campaign.
And by the way, we're going to get to this issue. I call it the Sammy the Bull Gravano, syndrome, if you will. How prosecutors offer deals. Tell us this, and you get a get-out-of-jail-free card or lower sentence, lesser sentence. Now, the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, he also weighed in. He said, quote, Michael Cohen is lying. It's no surprise that Cohen lied to Congress. He's a proven liar who is doing everything he can to get out of a long-term prison sentence for serious crimes of bank and tax fraud that had nothing to do with the Trump organization. Look, I know Michael Cohen. He has a wonderful family. I can't imagine the pressure he's under. I'm not going to pile on. He's got a lot of hard things that he's facing. But this is important. If this is Mueller's big witness, it is fair to ask, who are we to believe? The Michael Cohen then or the Michael Cohen now? That's a fair question. This is just the latest example of what is Mueller's concerted effort to turn the screws on everyone who's ever associated with President Trump. Let's look at the list. Michael Flynn, no Russia collusion. He pled guilty to lying to investigators. They ruined his life. He had to sell his house, and they probably threatened his kid, is my guess. George Papadopoulos, he's spending 2 weeks in jail. Nothing about Russia, lying to investigators. He now will have a felony on his track record forever. Paul Manafort had the book thrown over him. Oh, let's see, financial crimes dating back to 2007, bank loan applications, taxes, nothing Russian, nothing. What's amazing is he had a cooperation deal that ended likely because, well, he wouldn't lie like Jerome Corsi wouldn't lie. Meaning think about this, Paul Manafort tonight is willing to risk dying in prison than lie as the prosecutors would want. Jerome Corsi on the show last night, on my radio show for a full hour this afternoon, rejecting another lying investigator's plea deal. He might die in prison. 72 years old. He could have gotten a get-out-of-jail-free card and now is under Mueller's microscope, potentially facing life in prison, dying in prison, like Paul Manafort. And as he said last night on my radio show today, He's willing to do that because he can't lie before his God. That's what he said. His faith won't let him. Roger Stone is also literally feeling the special counsel's wrath. Now, none of the men I just mentioned to you had pled guilty to or admitted to anything related to Russia collusion. There's no evidence of any Russia collusion. None of them are being tried for any crimes related to collusion. 561 days of what? Now, here's the problem, and this is where we get to the crux of the matter. We have to analyze this deeply. What's happening is instead of seeking truth and justice, instead of applying our laws, in other words, equally applying our laws to everybody, equal justice under the law, what you're watching is a special counsel that has spun out of control, left way beyond his mandate, laying just perjury traps and literally trying to coerce people into what we call testa lying. In other words, Mueller's telling people, if you just say what we want. I mean, Corsi gave me full detail on my radio show today. Look, they were saying, just tell us, and listen, you probably won't even get probation. You know, if not, you're going to die in jail. That's the choice. And to think he's saying, I'm not going to lie. I won't lie. I believe in God, Jesus. I'm not going to do it. It's similar prosecutorial treatment that, remember, Sammy the Bull Gravano. You may not remember the case, I'll remind you. Killed at least, get this, that guy right there killed at least 19 people, got off no jail time. Then he just had to literally testify against John Gotti. And then after that, he was rewarded. Not only did he not go to jail, he was in the witness protection program, and he got a nice new house in Arizona. Isn't that nice? 19 people, no time in jail. Meanwhile, if you're not a notorious gangster or a Trump ally, the wheels of justice are turning much differently. Mueller's team collects lying to investigator guilty pleas like they're going out of style. They can't get the underlying crime or these people to say things that they don't believe to be true. Top Democrats, deep state bureaucrats, they lie, they get away scot-free. I've got the list. Look at the longtime Clinton aide, Cheryl Mills, Uma Abedin, blatantly lied when they told investigators that they had no knowledge of Hillary's private email. Really? Because they actually emailed there. Our friend and reporter here at the Fox News Channel, in special report, Catherine Herridge reporting either DOJ official Bruce Orr or Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson likely lied due to their contradictory testimony. Dirty Dossier author Christopher Steele, not only did he lied and leaked and was fired by the FBI. And then guess what? He was working still with Bruce Orr, fourth most powerful guy at the Justice Department. And now we have notes that show that he was trying to feed Bruce Orr, whose wife Nellie worked for Fusion GPS, information he was trying to feed Robert Mueller. And meanwhile, remember, Steele doesn't even stand by his own dossier when challenged in an interrogatory in Great Britain. James Clapper, let's go to the videotape. He lied under oath about national surveillance programs. So too did John Brennan. He also lied under oath about leaking. James Comey lied under oath when he said the report about the Clinton investigation had not been written before she was interviewed. Lie. Comey's second in command, Andrew McCabe. He was actually fired because of his pattern of lying. Where are the federal cases against these liars, against these people lying to Congress? Instead, what? We're pushing for charges. Fired FBI Director Comey actually defended the DOJ's pattern of lying on The View, literally saying, I lied, McCabe lied, but you can still be a good person if you lie. Well, unless you're a Republican, then they're going to put you in jail.
Your second in command, McCabe, was fired for lying multiple times within the FBI. You defended his character on Twitter. That's okay. Lying is okay internally.
No, it's definitely not. In fact, the McCabe case illustrates what an organization that's committed to the truth looks like. We investigate and hold. I ordered that investigation. We investigate and hold people accountable. Good people lie. I lay out in the book, I think I'm a good person where I've lied. I still believe Andrew McCabe is a good person, but the Inspector General found that he lied, and there's severe consequences in the Justice Department for lying, as there should be throughout the government.
The good people, they lie. The only problem is if you're not giving Mueller what he wants, then you're going to be charged with perjury. It's what I've been telling you. You want real Russia collusion? We've got it with all the evidence that Mueller doesn't have about Trump. We got the fixed email investigation, violation of the Espionage Act, the biggest obstruction of justice case I've ever seen. The dirty dossier bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Why? To lie to voters and convince voters of Russian hookers urinating in Trump's bed in Moscow so that they won't vote for him. I wonder how many Americans didn't vote for Trump because of that leaked lie, that paid for lie. The FISA fraud abuse, lying to FISA judges, literally a FISA fraud extravaganza. And, of course, omissions that didn't even tell the judges that Hillary paid for it. Then we got insurance policies, leaking policies. Is Robert Mueller even going to ever look in that direction? I thought we were looking for the truth, for real Russia collusion. We've got evidence on all of this, and it's a slam dunk case. Why is he not? Because there's one set of rules in this country now for one group of Americans, the swamp creatures, or if you're a liberal Democrat or your name's Clinton. Another set of rules for everyone else. Try this at home. You're subpoenaed. You delete the email subpoenaed. You acid wash your hard drive. You have your devices busted and you have SIM cards taken out. Good luck to you. It's not going to work. In other words, we don't have equal application of the law, equal justice under the law. This is a two-tiered justice system. You, as an American, every American tonight, it should scare the hell out of you if the President of the United States and those who surround him are subject to what is now clearly a double standard political persecution. Nobody in this country is safe. Nobody. This is the United States of America. We're not a banana republic. At least we're not supposed to be. This is not how our constitutional republic and system of justice is supposed to work. We can do better. We better do better. We better demand better. We'll have more on this throughout the show. But first, we do turn to a network whose motto is, well, about as fake as their coverage. The so-called Facts First Network, CNN, forced to fire longtime contributor today, Mark Lamont Hill, but only after widespread outcry over his anti-Semitic rant during a speech at the UN. Take a look at this.
If we are standing in solidarity with Palestinian people, we must recognize the right of an occupied people to defend itself. We must prioritize peace. But we must not romanticize or fetishize it. Commit to political action, grassroots action, local action, and international action that will give us what justice requires. And that is a free Palestine from the river to the sea.
In case you don't know, from the river to the sea, Israel is located between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean. Mark Lamont Hill was literally repeating a call from terrorists and Palestinian extremists. In other words, you wipe Israel off the map. Now, while Hill was ultimately fired, literally disgusting far-left rhetoric from CNN anchors, contributors is nothing new. Their hatred for the president, everything that he represents, the fact that he won, has driven this network into a very dark, frankly scary place. Day after day, minute after minute, second by second, the coverage is more and more absurd, biased, and frankly hateful. We're going to show you a montage tonight you'll want to show your friends. But first, joining us now, reaction to our top story, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter and the author of The Deep State, Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. Jason, you were there when a lot of those people that I put on my list lied. I don't see any of them. I don't see any consequences for any of them. So am I to interpret this right, that the only people that get hit with lying to Congress issues are if you're related to Trump? That's or General Flynn, Michael Cohen. Pick your person or poison.
Yeah, no, look, I was the chairman of the Oversight Committee, and it was crystal clear in the Hillary Clinton investigation, the 5 people closest to Hillary Clinton, they all got immunity agreements, and immunity agreements that required no cooperation with the government.
Explain what that means and explain the computer aspect. They were able to keep the evidence.
Yes. And so you have Cheryl Mills, you have Heather Samuelson, you have Brian Pagliano, you have these people closest to Hillary Clinton. She's under investigation because of what happened in the Inspector General. They're given immunity agreements, not complete immunity, but immunity from any prosecution from the Department of Justice. But they didn't have to cooperate with the government. They didn't have to answer questions from Congress. They didn't have to provide information to the Department of Justice. That's why you give an immunity agreement, is to get this. And then on the Trump case, I mean, everybody from Eric Holder to Hillary Rodham Clinton to the IRS targeting scandal to Fast and Furious, all of these cases, we had referrals from the Congress to the Department of Justice to prosecute them. And nothing, just crickets. Never had a response from them.
By the way, Sarah Carter, we put on my website a link. Sarah and my radio producer, Linda McLaughlin, produced a nonprofit, totally informational, great, literally, it's a public service about the opioid crisis in the country. We put it up on Hannity.com. So let's just stay focused on what's really going on here. Because to see people that will risk their life and say, you know what, my faith in God, my belief in our country tells me I can't go along with your lies. Jerome Corsi spelling out in detail. They're saying, say this, and you won't even get probation. We'll leave you alone. Really?
Well, they want him. They want him to compose, right? This is what Mueller needs.
Compose.
Exactly. He needs people to compose this narrative in order for him to mean something. I mean, look, he's building a legacy, right? He's the special counsel. That's why he keeps pushing towards Russia, even though nothing connects to Russia. What Michael Cohen did, yes, he lied to Congress. It's wrong. But we saw, Sean, even in the clips that you showed, James Clapper lied in 2013. He flat out lied to Senator Wyden, who was a Democrat, who asked him specifically if the United States government was collecting information on Americans. And he said, no, sir, we are not wittingly. And he knew he was lying. He ran out his statute of limitations on that. It was 5 years, and he walks away from it. And this wasn't the only time. And the FBI uses a dossier full of lies to go after, to
Hillary
spy first on an American.
Whoa,
exactly.
Russian lies used to propagandize the American people to get votes using the Russian lies that you bought and paid for. How is it possible that Mueller ignores all of this and the media ignores all of this?
I don't know how it's possible, but the American people are not dumb, Sean. The American people are seeing right through this. Believe me, they are. They are realizing that there are two sets of rules. And this is why it's important for Congress, even now, even people are saying, oh, it's a lame duck Congress. Nothing can be done now. But it's very important that we continue to push for investigations, and it's important to get to the truth.
Last word, we'll give it to you, Congressman Chaffetz. How do we get equal justice under the law back?
Well, first thing we need to do is that Congress needs to be able to get James Comey back up in that transcribed interview and let Gowdy and Radcliffe and these Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, let them go after him. They've got to do that before the clock runs out in January.
Well, remember, we also have Lindsey Graham in the Senate. And, Donald Trump campaign helped Marsha Blackburn, helped Rick Scott, helped Ron DeSantis, helped Josh Hawley. Joe Donnelly was beaten by Mr. Braun. I think he did a pretty good job.
He never became president. But Gore is at least more restrained than Jim Sciutto over on CNN, who said that Trump was going to cause the death of the entire planet by causing it to burn to death.
He keeps saying, well, we have record clean environment, doesn't get to the temperature. We got kids. We don't want to be, slowly burned to death on our own planet here.
The ladies of The View, meanwhile, argued about whether Trump was trying to suffocate the planet rather than set it on fire.
I think these people would rather have $1 billion in the bank than breathe. I really do. Well, they'd rather have money than breathe.
Do you think that Al Gore would rather have $100 million in the bank than breathe? Because he sold Current TV for $500 million to Al Jazeera, which is its gross domestic product is oil and gas. He made oil money. There's so much hypocrisy on the left with this. I'm sorry, Leonardo DiCaprio had 418 tons of CO2 last year.
He's not.
You want to change hearts and minds? Stop lecturing Americans.
I do take private planes. I'm not going to lie.
It's a fun show, The View. Author and columnist Mark Stein joins us tonight. So, Mark, the scientific conversation on warming always begins the same way, which is I'm a good person and you're not, so shut up and obey. This is a global phenomenon. It's happening all around the world, and it's happening in France, where the French government has just said, we want to slow down climate change, so we're taxing gasoline. And there's been this kind of revolution in response from the left and the right. The entire French middle class, tell me if I'm misreading this, has risen up to say, no, this is a scam. You're punishing us under the guise of making the planet better, and we're not putting up with it anymore. Do you think this is part of a global change in the way populations respond to climate hectoring?
Yes, I think so. I think climate hectoring was on the verge of a mass movement around the turn of the century. And then because all the climate models turned out to be disastrous, people came to understand it for what it is, which it's a boutique, niche concern. It's, as the ladies on The View were saying, it's for those who take private jets. So Leonardo DiCaprio and Al Gore can fly by private jet to climate conferences. Al Gore's house in Tennessee has a carbon footprint 20 times bigger than the average American home. But that's because he's being virtuous and using his carbon footprint to save the planet. Whereas you, Joe Schlub of 27B Elm Street, need to give up your washing machine and your dryer and be beating your clothes dry with the native women down on the rocks by the river, beating your loincloth dry.
But so let me ask you a sincere question. If you really believed that climate was the greatest challenge we face, why would you even allow private planes to exist? I'm sincere in that question.
Because I think it is actually a form of class war. It's a way, well, in macro terms, it's a way of the developed world denying the developing world any chance to live the kind of lives that people in the developed world live. And then within developed countries, it's a way for elites to tell people that, you know, when it's just Al Gore and the Prince of Wales flying around having climate conferences, everything's fine. But the minute Mr. and Mrs. Joe Schmo want to take a vacation in Florida, then the whole planet's going to broil. It's an elite thing.
Exactly.
Nobody takes it seriously. Al Gore said we had 10 years to save the planet in January 2006. So we're almost 3 years past his sell-by date now. I mentioned the Prince of Wales. He was more specific. He said we had 96 months. So that was June 2017. And we're still here.
I can't believe it.
Saying the world is going to end.
I'm especially glad that you're still here. Mark Stein, one of the few real geniuses I know. Thank you.
I'm way past my sell-by date, Tucker.
Me too. Up ahead, there is new evidence of danger lurking inside the migrant caravan stalled in Tijuana tonight. We'll tell you what it is after the break. Caravan now in Tijuana. It's not the people themselves, but the diseases that some of them could be carrying. And this is according to Mexican officials. Tijuana doctors say that 1/3 of caravan members are being treated for some kind of health issue. There are about 6,000 people in the caravan. More than 100 have lice or skin infections. 4 have HIV, 3 tuberculosis at least. Now, if these migrants are allowed into this country, no questions asked, of course, treating their ailments will become our responsibility. That's what we already do for illegal immigrants currently here, about 22 million of them. Meanwhile, an MS-13 member recently captured by the Border Patrol says he came with the caravan. You think he's the only one who came with the caravan? If you do, congratulations, you can be the new CNN White House reporter. While American elites lecture us on the importance of letting in anyone who wishes to move here into our country because immigrants are better than we are, life for actual Americans continues to get worse, and measurably so. New data show that in 2017, life expectancy for American middle-class citizens fell yet again, thanks in part to 70,000 drug OD deaths and the highest suicide rate in 50 years. It's not a stretch to say that life for ordinary people in this country is getting not simply shorter, but worse. And the most remarkable thing of all is that nobody seems to care. Tammy Bruce is a radio host and president of Independent Women's Voice, and obviously a fixture on this show, and we're grateful for that. So, Tammy, I guess what's so striking about this is not simply why it's happening, but the reaction you're seeing in Washington, or the lack of. I mean, if this were happening to any other group, Syrian refugees, migrant caravan members, if they were dying younger, wouldn't there be a national outcry about that?
Well, we do have national outcries when we see major events happen, like, let's say, the AIDS crisis, right?
Right,
and we move in to make a difference. We want to do that. But the 70,000 overdoses you mentioned, Tucker, is more than the combined U.S. deaths in the Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq war combined. So of all those wars that have, hurt the soul of this country, 1 year, 2017, 70,000 overdose deaths, more than the deaths in those wars combined. And then you have 47,000 suicides, which is an astounding number. But what we've got here is a government, and people say it's hopelessness. And we know that, of course, people turn to something like that. But the American people are resilient. What is new, and the CDC statistician guy said they've never seen numbers like this, but what's new is the opioid crisis, our action against that, and then Americans turning to illegal street narcotics like heroin and fentanyl. And I contend that they're not saying much about this because you have the start of it was through Obamacare and the healthcare dynamic of taking a pill instead of having a surgery because it was cheaper.
That's right.
But then also, now, in order to deal with this, 90% of the opioids, the fentanyl, the synthetic that is coming into this country is from Mexico, is from the southern border. It's a combination of Chinese influence as well, but it's Mexican. It's the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico. So in order to deal with this, Tucker, we'd have to actually talk seriously about border security. And we can't do that because then that would make Donald Trump look right. So we've got so many Americans being sacrificed because politicians don't want to have a conversation about security at the border.
Every time I bring this up on this show, the person I'm debating blames America. It's a demand problem.
That's right.
Okay, it tells you
it's not. This is a big government problem established by the government, Americans abandoned, and then a refusal to address a core of what we could do, and then deal also with addiction, which we have to do, but deal with that core at the border, and they're not willing to do it.
Tammy Bruce, thank you for that incisive analysis. Time now for final exam. Can you beat the experts at remembering what happened in the news this week? This week we have a special showdown between former Trump campaign chairman Corey Lewandowski and Dave Bossie, his co-author of a new book, a highly divisive final exam, after the break. They can remember what actually happened over the past 7 days. We've got a special version of Final Exam tonight. Corey Lewandowski and David Bossie are the co-authors of a brand new book called Trump's Enemies, How the Deep State is Undermining the President. We thought it'd be interesting to set co-author against co-author. They join us tonight. I cannot believe you agreed to do this.
We're ready. We're excited.
We're not above stunt casting the segment. That's exactly what we're doing tonight. All right. I'm not even going to bet. There is a kind of line in the studio on who's going to win, but I'm not going to tell you who's favored. I am going to read you the rules, though, so you know. That's right. And no cheating. Okay?
Then he's out. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
We're watching carefully. Okay, hands on buzzers. I ask the questions. The first one to buzz in gets to answer the question. This is key. You have to wait until I finish asking before you answer. You can answer once I acknowledge you by saying your name. Each correct answer worth 1 point. Each incorrect answer detracts a point from your total. So it's a very fluid scoring system. Best of 5 wins.
That's
you ready?
Points for you. He can't count that high.
He can't get. I don't know. He may have the voice advantage, but we'll see. We'll see who's faster. Question 1. By order of the National Game Show Commission, we have to begin with an animal question. That's the law. So here we go. The internet has gone crazy for a very unusual 4-legged farm animal in Australia. This animal weighs over 3,000 pounds. It is as tall as Michael Jordan. He is so different from all the other farm animals that they follow him around as if he were a deity. What kind of animal is he? Corey Lewandowski.
Moo! Cow.
Oh, I thought you were going to say moose.
He did say moose.
Is it a cow? There's no way a cow can be 3,000 pounds and 6 feet tall. Is it a cow?
6 foot 4 inches. That's the size of the utterly giant cow. Its name is Knickers, and he's now the laughing stock, weighing in at 3,000 pounds.
You will not find Knickers on your plate, just to be clear here. He's too big to process as the owner, so he's going to live happily ever after.
Can we just pause and appreciate Kilmeade for a second? He said it's utterly.
He did. Of course.
Just want to appreciate that. All right, question 2. Forbes is out with its annual list of the highest paid television stars. Topping the list is not me. It's a woman from Brooklyn who has made nearly $150 million in the past year. Her show has been on television since 1996. Who is she? Corey.
Judge Judy.
Man, you're fast.
This is my girl.
$150 million a year for Judge Judy?
Who's the highest paid TV host of all? And here's the answer.
Boom.
Lady on the left, Judge Judy. Wait for the number. $147 million in the past year.
Wow. Whoa.
Ellen DeGeneres, number 2, $87 million. Dr. Phil, $77 million. Ryan Seacrest, $74 million. Steve Harvey, $44 million.
So what are we doing wrong here at Fox? By the way, our judges just said that they've checked the circuitry in the buzzing devices, and that both of you buzzed in, you were just slightly faster.
Story of my life. Well, that's so true.
God,
that's so true.
Rubbing it in. Question 3. At a rally in Mississippi, the President of the United States told the crowd that as a young man, people told him he looked like which famous American icon? Dave, you blew it! Corey.
At least it works.
Robert Redford.
It sounded like the question ended, say our judges. See, I'm not in charge of making these rules. They are giving you a pass because they say it sounded like I'd finished the question. So you get to answer it. Which
Elvis.
American? Elvis! Man, you guys are hair trigger. Is it Elvis?
Other than the blonde hair, when I was growing up, they said I looked like Elvis. You see that? Could you believe it? I always consider that a great compliment.
You guys have spent a lot of time on the president. Ever heard him sing?
No. Not even for a second.
Not even for a second. All right.
And listen to Tiny Dancer a few times.
We listen to, he liked Elton John a lot.
I know you have. Such a sensitive song. I love it. All right, question 4. And it's 2-1, by the way. This is a multiple choice about the weirdest video of the week. An American tourist had a near-death experience high above the Swiss Alps after somebody forgot to buckle his safety harness and left him holding on for dear life. Which activity was the man doing at the time? Was it A, hang gliding, B, bungee jumping, C, skydiving? Corey.
Hang gliding with the creepy poor lawyer.
Seriously? CPL was there?
Yes.
We're not going to hold you to that. Was it hang gliding, as Corey said?
A first-time hang glider holding on for dear life. His safety harness was not connected. He was left clinging to the pilot. The pilot was trying to land somewhere quickly, but he had trouble controlling that glider because he was steering with one hand.
Creepy porn lawyer can't even hold on to his clients, much less a hang glider. All right, final question. This one also multiple choice. First Lady Melania Trump has unveiled the Christmas decorations at the White House. They feature tens of thousands of red ornaments. What is this year's theme? Is it A, Winter Wonderland, B, Blessings from the Heartland, or C, American Treasures? Corey.
American Treasures.
Is it, okay, let me just say, you're a savage animal. Can I just say that? You are. It's unbelievable. Is it C, American Treasures?
American Treasures. Each room inside the White House highlights different American cities, presidents, and traditions.
It's unbelievable.
There are more than 14,000 red ornaments hanging from 29 trees this year, and there's a gingerbread house.
Hey, Tucker, I never get tired of winning.
You know, you are, and by the way, I'm looking, we have a mug. It's our Eric Wempel mug, and I don't know where it is. So they're back ordered. So we're going to give you the Golden Retriever mug instead, which I hope, yeah. So
Can I come back and defend my title?
Yes, you can defend your title. Boom. Anytime. And Mr. Bossy, I hope you will come back too. And I know that you let him win because he's your co-author.
You know what? He needs to feel a little better about himself, so I let him win.
You're still splitting the royalties 50-50. Gentlemen, thank you. It was great to see you. That's it for this week's final exam. Pay close attention to the news all week. And tune in next week to see if you can beat the pros. We'll be right back. We're on the cusp of December. Shopping and caroling, but also new progressive attacks on Christmas. They mock the idea there is a war on Christmas, even as they wage it. Of course. This year's first target is the classic film Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Piece for HuffPo explains that the film is full of bullying, bigotry, exploitation on the part of Rudolph's father, Santa, and other sinister characters.
All right, son, try it on.
I don't wanna. Daddy, I don't like it.
You'll like it and wear it.
Oh, but Daddy, it's not very comfortable.
There are more important things than comfort.
Dave Rubin hosts the Rubin Report on YouTube, and is a very wise man and joins us tonight. So, Dave, as I'm watching that, all of a sudden I had this kind of panic feeling and thinking, maybe I fell for an elaborate, ironic prank from HuffPo, and then I realized no, because they don't have a sense of humor. I mean, but reassure me, this is real, right?
Tucker, very quickly on the last segment, I swear to you, I thought you were the highest paid man in television. I am shocked, and I'm gonna, I don't get paid for these appearances, but I am going to mail you a check for somewhere between $15 and $20. Okay, that aside,
I appreciate that, Dave.
This is, you got it, my friend. Listen, these puff piece of Huffington Post. I mean, look, these pieces that these authors, whatever they are, journalists that they write. These are not pieces of journalism. It's so much easier to destroy than to create. If you're watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and think it's about racism and misogyny and the patriarchy and the rest of it, well, you can find that stuff everywhere. If you look back at anything, and that's what people really need to understand when these pieces come out, and then you start looking at something that you used to love or that used to have a wonderful message about the holiday and giving and being accepted and all of those things, that they're trying to take that away from you. And it's not like they stop with one thing, right? They find something, they kind of destroy that, and they'll move on to everything else that we love. So, you know, eventually they'll move on to sitcoms that we love, whether it's Seinfeld for, you know, doing something they've done, or Friends or whatever else it is. They'll go for cartoons. They've gone for Bugs Bunny. I mean, they will literally go for a sunset. Think of whoever's watching this right now, think of something you love that brings you a sense of peace and decency, and they will somehow link it to the patriarchy and the rest of their politically correct nonsense. And we just need to realize that, as I said earlier, it's easier to destroy than create.
Well,
and
that's
what
the
they're
smartest.
just going to keep doing. And I think what we have to do is create.
That's such a smart point. What are we creating? What is being created in this moment of destruction right now? Do you make me feel better?
Well, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
well, that's what I'm worried about, because there is some legitimacy that some of the things happening in the country and in the world should be destroyed at some level. Look, we've got major problems in academia. We've got major problems in the media.
We want some change. I agree.
Absolutely. So we want some change, but anyone can burn anything down. And the question is, we've put up so much goodness in the world. The United States and Western world has put up so much goodness related to freedom. We live in the freest country ever. We can do whatever we want in this country. And if your job all day long is to write pieces that actually destroy the stories that we're built on, and then don't offer an alternative. I mean, that's the thing. They never offer an alternative. Or if they do, it usually is about power to the state, which is actually dystopian, not utopian. So that's what we have to watch out for. And, you know, it's unfortunate because they write these things, and then, you know, guys like us, we feel like we have to respond to them because we don't want people being brainwashed. But I'm glad that we did,
because you just issued a challenge, I think, to the rest of us, which is create. You know, we need to create more.
Let's create, man. Let's create.
Let's do it. Dave Rubin, great to see you. We'll be back right after this. It goes faster than you think it will. That's certainly true of the last hour. We are out of time, but we'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m., the show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. But it's not over for good, because Sean Hannity is live from New York right now.
All right, Tucker, two things I'm never going to do in life, two shows. Jeopardy. I'm great at home. I'd blow it in person.
I would, too.
And I'm not doing your quiz.